Sound of breaking glass, heavy breathing, footsteps running on wooden floors. Last month in Capiz province, a mother of 3 barricaded her door with a machete in hand. She was convinced an Aswang was trying to get inside to steal her unborn child. But here's what no one wants to admit: she might have been right. Dark forest at night, sounds of creatures moving through trees. Tonight, you'll enter the hidden world of Philippine mythology, where ancient gods still walk among mortals, forest spirits guard sacred trees, and shape-shifting monsters hunt in the darkness. A world where the line between myth and reality disappeared centuries ago. Rural Filipino village at dusk, all lamps flickering in window. In the Philippines, 7,641 islands hold 7,641 different versions of the truth. Every barangay, every mountain, every forest has its own monsters, its own gods, its own rules for survival. But here's what nobody tells you. These aren't just stories told to scare children. They are survival manuals written in blood. Elderly Filipino woman lighting candles, her face etched with fear. Lola Rosa has lived in Siquijah Island for 87 years. She's never seen an Aswang directly, but she's seen what they leave behind. Empty cribs, pregnant women found dead, children who disappeared without a trace. You don't hunt the Aswang, she whispers. The Aswang hunts you. What nobody tells you is that modern Filipinos still hang garlic and salt around their windows, still avoid walking alone at night, still pray to saints their ancestors called by different name. Ancient wooden statue of Barthala, weathered but imposing. Before Spanish colonizers brought Christianity, Filipinos worshipped Barthala, the supreme creator god. He had 3 daughters born from a mortal woman: Mayari, goddess of the moon; Tala, goddess of the star; and Hanan, goddess of the morning. These gods didn't live in distant heavens. They walked the earth. They fell in love. They had children with humans. But here's the shocking part: Spanish missionary burning indigenous religious artifacts. When Spanish colonizers arrived, they didn't just destroy temple, they demonized the gods themselves. Barthala became false-eyed, Diwatas became demons, ancient protectors became monsters to fear. The systematic erasure of an entire cosmology, genocide of the spirit world. But the spirits refused to die. Dense tropical forest, sunlight filtering through ancient trees. Deep in the forests of Mindanao, the Diwatas still dance. Forest spirits so beautiful that mortals who see them lose their minds to love. So powerful that a single curse can destroy entire bloodlines. They appear as impossibly gorgeous women, long black hair that flows like water, voices that sound like wind chimes, eyes that hold the wisdom of centuries. But approach them wrong, and they'll lead you so deep into the forest that you'll never find your way home. And this is where everything changes. Modern Filipino teenager showing scars on his arms. 16-year-old Miguel from Batangas swears a Diwata saved his life. He was drowning in a river when a beautiful woman pulled him to shore. When he turned to thank her, she had vanished. The scars on his arms? They are not from rocks, they are from her fingernail. Diwatas aren't entirely human. People think I'm crazy, Miguel says. But I know what I saw. Hospital emergency room, doctors treating unexplained injury. Dr. Elena Santos has worked in rural hospitals for 20 years. She's seen bite marks that don't match any known animal, scratches that form perfect patterns, wounds that won't heal despite medical treatment. The official reports call them accidents. The nurses whisper different names. Medical science can't explain everything, she admits quietly. But here's what nobody expected. DNA analysis laboratory, scientists examining blood samples. Genetic researchers studying Filipino populations found something impossible. Certain bloodlines carry genetic markers that don't match any known human ancestry, as if somewhere in their family tree, their ancestors bred with something else. The scientists published their findings in obscure journals. The mainstream media ignored them, but the elders in remote villages weren't surprised at all. Ancient cave paintings showing human-animal hybrid figure. Philippine cave art dating back 40,000 years shows the same creatures described in modern Aswang sighting. Half human, half animal being. Creatures that feed on blood and flesh. Either Filipinos have been hallucinating the same monsters for 40 millennia, or these things are real. The archaeological evidence is uncomfortable. The implications are terrifying. What nobody tells you is that Aswang sightings aren't decreasing, they are increasing. Police station, officer filing reports late at night. Officer Carlos Mendoza has investigated 23 cases of alleged Aswang attacks in the past 2 years. Livestock drained of blood, pregnant women reporting nighttime visitors, children claiming flying creatures tap on their window. The official reports call them animal attacks or psychological episode. But Mendoza keeps salt in his patrol car and garlic in his gun holster. I've seen things, he says simply, things that don't belong in any textbook. And this is where the story becomes personal. Young mother clutching her infant child, eyes wide with terror. Maria Gonzalez gave birth 3 months ago. Every night since, something has been trying to get into her house, scratching at the wall, calling her baby's name in a voice that sounds almost human. Her husband thinks she's having postpartum psychosis. The doctors prescribe antidepressants. But the scratch marks on her door keep getting deeper. It knows my baby's name, she sobs. How does it know his name? Traditional Filipino healer preparing protective charm. Manang Carmen is an albulario, traditional healer. She still performs rituals that predate Christianity by thousands of years. She still speaks to spirits in languages the Spanish priests tried to destroy. Her house is protected by symbols carved into bamboo. Her garden grows plants that most people have forgotten the names of. The Aswang fear the old ways, she explains while grinding herb, because the old ways remember how to fight. But here's the shocking part. Modern Catholic Church built on ancient ritual grounds. Every major Catholic church in the Philippines was deliberately built on top of indigenous sacred sites. The Spanish didn't just replace Filipino religion. They literally buried it under Christian altars. But deep beneath those churches, the old power still pulses. Filipino families still leave offerings for Diwatas while praying to saints. Still whisper ancient names while lighting Christian candles. The synthesis didn't eliminate the old gods, it just taught them to hide. Nighttime security camera footage, unexplained shadows moving. Security cameras in Manila's financial district regularly capture unexplainable phenomena. Shadows that move independently of any person. Figures that appear and disappear between frames. The footage is dismissed as technical glitches. The security guards know better. Even in steel and glass towers, the old Philippines persists. What nobody tells you is that the mythological creatures are adapting to modern time. Urban legend researcher interviewing witnesses. Dr. Patricia Cruz studies contemporary folklore. She's documented Aswang sightings in shopping malls, office buildings, and gated communities. The monsters are following their prey into the modern world. They are not bound by rural superstition, she explains. They are bound by hunger, and hungry things learn to adapt. Her research suggests the creatures are evolving, learning to mimic cell phone ringtones, hiding in city shadow, using modern technology to hunt the ancient horror wearing contemporary mask. And this is where everything changes. International Conference on Cryptozoology. Scientists presenting evidence. For the first time, international researchers are taking Philippine monster sightings serious. Hair samples that don't match known animals. Audio recordings of impossible vocalization. Video evidence that survives digital analysis. The scientific community is quietly investigating what Filipinos have known for millennia. Maybe mythology isn't myth after all. Filipino-American family visiting relatives in the provinces. The Reyes family lives in California now. They are educated, successful, thoroughly Americanized. They don't believe in Aswang or Diwatas or ancient curses until they visit their ancestral home in Iloilo. Within 3 days, their skepticism crumbles. Strange sounds in the night. Objects moving on their own. Dreams that feel more real than waking life. You can't understand the Philippines from the outside, admits Father Roberto. You have to feel it in your blood. Children playing traditional Filipino games, unaware of watching eye. In remote barangays, children still play games their great-grandparents play. Games with rules designed to protect them from creatures that hunt in the darkness. Don't count past 10 after sunset. Don't respond when something calls your name from the forest. Don't look directly at beautiful strangers who appear at crossroads. Games that have kept Filipino children alive for centuries. But here's what nobody expected. Modern Filipino artists incorporating mythological themes into contemporary art. Young Filipinos are rediscovering their mythological heritage. Video games featuring Aswang as protagonists. Comic books where Diwatas are superhero. Movies that treat ancient gods as complex characters rather than primitive superstition. The old stories are finding new voices, new audiences, new believers. The mythology isn't dying. It's evolving. Filipino shaman performing ancient rituals, speaking in pre-Spanish languages. Babaylan Rosa still performs ceremonies her grandmother taught. Ceremonies that supposedly died out 500 years ago. Languages that Spanish priests claim to have eliminated. She speaks to Bathala in Tagalog that predates European contact. She negotiates with Diwatas using protocols older than Christianity. The gods never left, she says simply. Humans just forgot how to listen. What nobody tells you is that the Spanish conquest didn't eliminate Filipino mythology, just drove it underground. University researcher studying ancient Filipino texts. Professor Miguel Santos has spent 30 years translating pre-colonial Filipino writing. Documents hidden by families for centuries. Oral traditions finally being recorded. What he's discovered challenges everything textbooks teach about Philippine history. Filipino civilization was far more sophisticated than colonizers admitted, he explains. They had complex theological systems, detailed creature classifications, systematic approaches to supernatural encounters. This wasn't primitive superstition. This was advanced spiritual science, and this is where the story becomes urgent. Climate change destroying ancient Filipino forests. The forests where Diwatas live are disappearing. The sacred groves where ancient rituals took place are being cleared cut. The natural barriers that kept dangerous spirits contained are being destroyed. Environmental destruction isn't just killing ecosystems, it's unleashing things that were meant to stay hidden. Local villagers reporting increased supernatural activity near deforested areas. Every time a sacred forest gets destroyed, nearby communities report a surge in supernatural encounters, as if displacing the spirits makes them angry, desperate, hungry. The trees were our protection, explains farmer Juan de la Cruz. Now they are gone, and the things they kept away are looking for new home. Modern technology can't replace ancient wisdom. Concrete can't contain spirits. Progress can't protect against creatures that evolution never intended to exist. But here's the shocking part. Indigenous Filipino elders meeting to preserve traditional knowledge. The few remaining Babaylan and Albulario are racing against time. They are desperately trying to pass on knowledge that took centuries to accumulate. How to recognize different types of aswang. How to negotiate with territorial Diwatas. How to perform protective rituals that actually work. When the last elder dies, humanity loses its defense manual against creatures that won't die. With young Filipino learning traditional healing arts from grandmother. 20-year-old Sarah Magbanua is learning her grandmother's secrets. The herb combinations that repel malevolent spirits. The prayers that must be spoken in specific dialects. The offerings that buy safe passage through haunted places. My friends think I'm studying superstition, she says while grinding medicinal plants. But superstition that works isn't superstition anymore. She's not just preserving culture, she's preserving survival skills. Filipino-American returning to the Philippines, carrying modern camera. Documentary filmmaker Jason Cruz returned from America to film the myths he'd grown up hearing. He brought state-of-the-art equipment, scientific skepticism, and Western rationalism. He left believing everything his grandmother ever told him. You can't document magic with machines, he admits, but you can document its effects, and the effects are undeniable. And this is where everything comes together. Modern Filipino family participating in ancient protection ritual. The Morales family runs a successful tech company in Makati. They have graduate degrees from American University. They speak fluent English and drive German cars. They also burn copal incense every full moon. They leave rice offerings for household spirits. They consult with Albulario before making major business decisions. Success doesn't protect you from everything, explains Father Antonio. Some things require older wisdom. Mixture of Catholic saints and pre-colonial deity statues on family altar. Filipino households seamlessly blend Christian iconography with indigenous spiritual practices. Jesus stands next to Bartholomew. Virgin Mary shares space with moon goddess Mayari. The synthesis that Spanish priests tried to prevent happened anyway. Filipino spirituality proved more adaptive than European theology. The old gods learned to wear new masks. The ancient protection learned to speak Christian languages. But beneath the surface, the original power never changed. Filipino children listening to grandmother tell traditional stories. Every night in Filipino households, grandmothers still tell the story, still teach the rules for living safely in a world where monsters are real and gods still interfere in human affairs. The oral tradition that survived 500 years of colonization. The knowledge passed from generation to generation in whispers and warnings. Remember, Lola tells her grandchildren, the world is stranger than you'll ever know. But our ancestors gave us the tools to survive it. And here's the ultimate truth. Philippine sunrise over ancient landscape, mist rising from mountain. Philippine mythology isn't mythology, it's the operating manual for a reality that Western science refuses to acknowledge. A reality where consciousness isn't limited to biological light, where the boundary between physical and spiritual is permeable, where ancient beings still influence modern events. The Filipinos didn't create these stories to explain natural phenomena. They created them to survive supernatural ones. Modern Filipino scientists studying traditional knowledge. Dr. Ana Delgado bridges Western science and indigenous wisdom. Her research suggests that Filipino superstitions contain sophisticated observations about natural phenomena that science is only beginning to understand. Maybe our ancestors weren't primitive, she suggests. Maybe they were just studying different aspects of reality. Quantum physics and shamanic practices might be investigating the same mysteries from different angles. The backward traditions might be advanced technologies that Western thinking isn't sophisticated enough to recognize. Filipino priest blessing mixture of Christian and indigenous symbols. Even Catholic priests in the Philippines quietly acknowledge the power of pre-Christian spiritual practices. Father Miguel Santos performs exorcisms using Latin prayers and indigenous herbs. God works through many traditions, he explains diplomatic. Sometimes the old ways understand problems that new ways cannot solve. The Vatican doesn't officially approve, but rural priests do what works. Faith and folklore have learned to coexist in the tropical archipelago where reality bends different rules. And this is where the story asks its final question. Filipino child looking up at starry night sky, wonder in their eyes. 8-year-old Maya Santos doesn't know that Western education will teach her to stop believing in the creatures she sees in peripheral vision, the spirits she talks to in dreams, the protective presence she feels when she's scared. She doesn't know that growing up means losing the ability to perceive magic, but maybe this time will be different. Maybe this generation will refuse to choose between science and spirituality, between progress and protection, between modernity and mystery. Maybe they'll remember that reality is bigger than any single worldview can contain. Filipino families gathering for traditional ceremony at ancient ritual site. Every year, more Filipinos return to their ancestral spiritual practices. Every year, more young people learn the old languages, the old songs, the old ways of seeing. The mythology that colonizers try to kill is experiencing resurrection. Not as primitive superstition, but as sophisticated spiritual technology. Not as backward tradition, but as advanced consciousness studies. The Aswang and Diwatas and ancient gods aren't disappearing. They are being rediscovered. Sound of traditional Filipino instruments playing ancient melody. The spirits that Spanish priests declared extinct are laughing at their own funeral. The gods that missionaries claim to have defeated are accepting offerings from their great-great-grandchildren. The mythology that academics filed under folklore is emerging as the science of consciousness that humanity forgot it needed. Philippine mythology isn't about the past, it's about the future. A future where mystery and reason dance together, where ancient wisdom guides modern choices, where the descendants of both colonizer and colonized learn to see the world through eyes that accept magic as another form of physics. The Aswang, Diwatas, and ancient gods aren't myths. They are teachers, protectors, warnings, allies. They are still here, still watching, still waiting for humans to remember how to listen. And in the Philippines, more people are starting to hear them again. The sound of drums fades into the night wind. But if you know how to listen,